The first lie always tastes the sweetest, like sugar melting on the tongue before it scalds the throat. That was what I told myself the night I agreed to marry him. The man everyone in town whispered about as untouchable, merciless. A king in a kingdom of glass towers. I should have run. But my family's ruin left me no choice. Ethan Callahan. My fiancé. My savior. My executioner. He looked at me as if he already knew the truth, that my heart was a currency. Traded in silence. A deal inked with desperation. I was a pawn, a sacrificial lamb dressed in tuxedo silk, and he was the man who held the blade. But here's the cruelest part. Against all logic, against the bars of the cage I walked into willingly, I fell for him. And when I realized I carried his child, the thin walls between us began to crack in ways neither of us could control. The engagement party was the kind of spectacle you only saw in glossy magazines. Crystal chandeliers dripping light like liquid diamonds, violins singing above the chatter of the city's elite, the champagne flowing endlessly. My mother gripped my wrist with nails sharp enough to draw blood, whispering through her forced smile, "Do not ruin this for us, Noah. We need him." The word burned. I wasn't marrying for love. I was marrying for survival. My father's company had collapsed, our debts circling us like vultures. Ethan Callahan stepped in like a god dressed in Armani, offering salvation with one condition: me. He was older by 7 years, colder by a lifetime. When he entered the ballroom, silence fell. Dark hair slicked back, eyes like shards of onyx cutting through the crowd. He moved as if the world bent for him. And when he kissed my cheek for the cameras, his lips lingered just long enough to make my pulse stumble. "Smile," he murmured, his breath warm, "or they'll see through you." I did. I smiled until my jaw ached, until my chest cracked with the weight of the performance. That night, after the guests departed, I found myself alone on the balcony with him. The city sprawled beneath us, lights flickering like secrets. Ethan leaned against the railing, his tie loosened, his gaze on me like a silent accusation. "You think I don't know?" he asked softly. My throat tightened. "Know what?" "That you're here out of desperation. That you'd rather sell your soul than stand beside me willingly." His voice carried no anger, only a kind of weary truth. "But you will. And in time, you'll learn that debts paid in lies have the highest interest." I wanted to spit back, to tell him he was wrong, but the words died in my throat, because he wasn't wrong. And yet, when he stepped closer, when his hand brushed mine in the quiet, something traitorous inside me wanted to believe there was more than contracts and chains between us. Weeks bled into months. We lived like strangers under one roof, the mansion colder than any winter storm. He worked late, came home later, but sometimes, in the rare hours when the mask slipped, I caught glimpses of the man buried beneath the empire. The way he lingered by the piano but never played, the scars across his knuckles that told stories no headlines had captured, the silence that weighed heavier than words. And then there were the nights where the line blurred between duty and desire, where my body betrayed me even as my mind screamed of betrayal. He touched me like I was both punishment and prayer, and I hated him for it. I hated myself more. It was supposed to be just a role, a lie, a transaction. But the human heart is a reckless thing. It doesn't ask for permission before it ruins you. The morning I discovered I was pregnant, I sat on the edge of the bathroom floor, knees trembling, the test clutched in my hand. The world tilted. I had never felt more alive or more trapped. My family didn't know. They couldn't. But Ethan noticed before I even opened my mouth. One evening, he pressed a glass of wine into my hand at dinner, and when I pushed it away, his gaze sharpened like a blade. "Tell me," he demanded. My lips parted, trembling. I'm pregnant." For the first time, the mask cracked. His eyes widened, his breath hitched. And then, slowly, a smile curved his lips, not cold, not calculated, but something else, something dangerous. "Then everything changes," he said. "Because now, Noah, you are not just mine by contract. You are mine in blood." I wanted to scream at him, to tell him I was not property, not some trophy. But the truth clawed at me, part of me wanted it to be real. Wanted him to want Menet because of business, not because of survival, but because he saw me. But what if he never could? The storm came sooner than I expected. My family, once grateful, began to whisper of ways to untangle me from him now that we were financially secure again. They saw my child as leverage, a bargaining chip. And I began to see the truth of the prison I had built. One night, when Ethan returned home early, he found me on the floor of the nursery we hadn't even agreed to build, clutching a stuffed bear against my chest. "Why are you crying?" he asked, voice low. "Because none of this was supposed to happen," I whispered. "I was supposed to hate you. I was supposed to get out once my family was safe. But now my voice broke. Now I don't know who I am without you." He knelt beside me, his hand trembling as it brushed my face. For once, no armor, no power, just a man as lost as I was. And in that moment, I realized, love doesn't always arrive like a gift. Sometimes it comes like a debt, unwanted, unavoidable, but impossible to escape. Ethan's confession that night, the trembling hand on my cheek, the cracks in his voice haunted me for days. For the first time, I saw him not as a ruthless titan but as a man, terrified of losing something he never dared to admit he wanted. Me. The life we had accidentally built together. But outside our walls, judgment sharpened like knives. It began with whispers in the city, tabloids splashing headlines about the scandalous Callahan heir trapped in a marriage of convenience. Then came the board members, questioning Ethan's ability to rule with a boy-toy husband at his side. My family, once so grateful, began to treat me like collateral again, whispering of annulments, bargaining for shares of a company they no longer deserved. "You've given him what he wanted," my mother hissed one afternoon, her eyes darting to my stomach. "The baby is his anchor. Now you can walk away, Noah. We can walk away. Walk away." As if love was that simple. I stared at her, at the woman who raised me on sacrifice and silence. "What if I don't want to?" I whispered. Her face hardened. "Then you're a fool." Maybe I was. But for the first time in my life, I wanted to be a fool for him. The breaking point came when my father's old investors tried to corner me in the hospital lobby after a prenatal checkup. They leaned too close, their voices slick with venom. "Callahan won't keep you forever," one sneered. "When he's done, when the shine fades, where will you be? Alone, broke, a burden." I tried to brush past, but one grabbed my arm. Before I could react, Ethan was there. He moved like thunder, shoving the man back so hard he hit the wall. His eyes blazed with a fury I had never seen, his hand shaking as he wrapped it around mine. "Touch him again," Ethan hissed, "and you'll learn what real ruin feels like." The men scattered, cowards in designer suits. And then, as the silence swallowed us, Ethan turned to me. His breath was ragged, his control shattered. "You don't see it, do you?" His voice cracked. "You think this is about contracts and deals and appearances. But I can't lose you, Noah. I don't care if the world hates us. I don't care if they call me weak. I need you. I need you more than I've ever needed anything." The words hit harder than any confession. Because this man, the one who built empires and broke enemies, was trembling, begging me to see him. And I did. God help me, I did. Our love became war and sanctuary all at once. We fought against families, against shareholders, against the cruel lens of society that refused to believe two men could build a home out of something real. But in the quiet moments, when his hand rested over mine on my stomach, when his lips pressed against my temple as if to seal me to him, I knew the truth. We were not broken. We were becoming. The night our son was born, the storm outside rattled the windows. Ethan never left my side, his hand gripping mine so tightly it felt like he was anchoring himself to me. When the first cry filled the room, he broke. Tears slipped down his face as he held our child, his shoulders shaking under the weight of something too vast for words. "He's perfect," I whispered, exhausted. Ethan leaned down, pressing the baby into my arms, his lips brushing my forehead. "No, we're perfect. Because we're together." I had never seen him so unguarded, so stripped of the armor he wore for the world. In that moment, He wasn't the powerful Callahan heir or the ruthless businessman. He was just Ethan. My Ethan. Months passed, and though the world still whispered, their voices no longer cut me. I had found something louder, stronger. At the Callahan estate, Ethan hosted his first gala since our wedding, and for the first time, I walked beside him not as a pawn, not as a shadow, but as his equal. The cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but his hand tightened on mine. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. I smiled, the kind of smile that came not from performance but from truth. "With you? Always." We stepped into the ballroom, our son asleep upstairs, our lives no longer borrowed or bargained. The music swelled, the lights glimmered, and for once, I felt free, because love had freed me, because Ethan had freed me, because together, we had chosen each other not for duty, not for survival, but for love. Later that night, as we danced in the quiet glow of the chandelier, Ethan bent close, his lips brushing my ear. "Do you remember the first thing I told you?" I laughed softly. "That debts paid in lies have the highest interest." He smiled, his forehead resting against mine. "Then let's call this love our debt and spend forever paying it off." I closed my eyes, breathing him in, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed the world anything. I had everything, and it was him. The lie that began our story nearly destroyed us. But in the ashes, we found something the world could never touch. Love not born of bargains, but of battles fought side by side. And maybe that's the kind of love that lasts forever. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.